And so I was asked earlier, who is Pavel? and there were some talk about Calontir.
A little.
And cool moments in the SEA have come by, and for me, a lot of those cool moments happen at war.
Which one?
To awake in a chill morning to the sound of outlaws' drums in Estrella. To sing with the army under a brilliant meridian sky at Gulf Wars. Sun beating down on helm and shield at Lilies. Or, weary from battle, still singing, marching home, the war songs in the evening at Penzik. Or sitting around a fire in the late autumn and just thinking about the next year to come. These are images of Calontir to me. And they are precious, not only because they are Calontir, but because of the way our kingdom is. I am an archer. I am only now taking up sword and shield, yet I march with the army. I do so because they bear banners of our archer orders with them into battle. And we, when we go to march and shoot war points, carry their banners with us. And we are given the honor. Warriors march to the archery field, though they do not intend to shoot, just to march with us. The fourth company in Calontir is the water bearers. They are a company of the army. They are soldiers. The Kyrgians have a war standard. The cooks in the soup kitchen that wait at the pavilion and provide sustenance when they return have a war standard. They are all in the army, and anyone who can be included in that army of Calontir is. But it was not always so. Once we were a young, fledgling kingdom trying to figure out what we wanted to do. In fact, we were not even a kingdom yet. Not even a principality when this first event happens. Yet, a miracle happened for Calontir. Some capricious god has been molding us. Because there is a man who has horrible things happen to him. And yet he survives them. Miracle. Surviving. And when this happens, a good thing occurs for Calontir. We don't know why we are so blessed or he is so cursed. The first thing happened is that he came among us. His name that he took is Pavel. And he was in the service of a completely different army called the U.S. Army. And in this army he was slit across his middle, up into his chest, his right arm hanging only onto his body by the muscles and tendons of his back. Now, I don't know about the rest of you, but this sounds like a mortal wound to me. Yet somehow he did survive this, held together by various pins and other things. The further miracle, though, is that after such injury, he came and fought with us. And didn't just fight, he was bloody enthusiastic. He was down in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and yet he went thither and yon and found fighting everywhere across Calontir and into the Mid-Realm, and God knows where else he went to find a fight. Then one day, he heard about this cool battle. There are a bunch of people that get together and do this at this place called Penzik. And he just thought, well, I gotta go there. And so off he went to Penzik. And when he came back, he was really on fire. Because he said, it's so different. I mean, you just don't understand. Around here, you hit people, and you hit people, it goes thunk, thunk, thunk. But at Penzik, there are these guys you can hit, and it goes splat. They're called the Two-Chucks. Back in the day, the Two-Chucks wore very minimal armor. And he loved hitting them Two-Chucks. So we got a bunch of friends, and they went. And then they went again. But this time, the third time, when they went, we were a principality trying to become a kingdom. And there was all this talk. We will fight as one. We will be one Calontir fighting together. And everybody was trying to get it together to show that we could be a good kingdom and all this kind of stuff. And anything could have happened from there. We could have had households, and divisions, and all that sort of thing, and different competing groups. But a miracle happened. Now, when a miracle happens for Calontir, two things happen. Good things happen for Calontir, and
Pavel gets hurt.
now he's standing there with divers others, trying to fight as one with Calontir, but it's impossible. For lo, before him come the two chucks, and he just can't help himself. And so he charges forward into the two chucks, smiting them, striking them down, like some hero out of the Bible with a jawbone of it. Well, you know. And there he turns, like a mighty Olympian, looking back at his Calontir friends and says, just like, see what I did. This pile of two chuck bodies spread out around him. And that is when the miracle occurs. For some capricious god breathed life back into that two-chuck, I swear to you. For my king, who I was in fealty to at the time, told me this very story. That two-chuck was dead, and then he was alive. For he looked up then at his foe from his newly awakened state, and with all of his two-chuck might, drove his sword as hard as he possibly could, straight up into that protection that men hold most and splitting that protection. Pavel went to yon hospital. But he is so enthusiastic, so full of the fire of battle, that he made it a point to get back to the battlefield and lay on the side, so to speak, kind of trying and watch the fighting. And this is why it happens. This is why it's a miracle for Calontir. Because instead of being in that warlust, uncontrolled, he's sitting and thinking. He's watching. As he watches and thinks, an idea comes to him. We could all train together. We could all fight as one. We could form a wall of shields and fight behind it. And the germ of the idea of the shield wall is born that day. He tells many others, and there are many, many contributions. So many people that it's impossible to count. But his enthusiasm, his drive, spawned that shield wall. And why do we fight behind it today? Why are we one army? Because at the very next Penzic War, the little kingdom of Calontir, its first year, showed the shield wall for the first time. When it did so, on one bridge that it was assigned to, the shield wall worked its way forward, and no one had ever seen anything like it. Down came the shield wall. We held that bridge. But that was not the end. The far bridge started to collapse. We had plenty of shields left. Took enough of the bridge to take that one. Down came the shield wall. Again, they'd never seen anything like it. At this point, the other side goes, hold! They can't do that! Flip, 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 flip. Nothing in the rules against it. Lay on. Middle bridge is finally collapsing. They put all their weight into it because they've been beating on these shield walls for a while. And we have shields left, and we gather other shields with us, and the shield wall, with many others, claims the middle bridge, drives the enemy back, and we win the battle, though it is not over because there are still fighters on the other side. We're just rope-a-doping them. The battle lasted 2 hours. It had never lasted longer than a half an hour before. And the littlest, the newest, the least of kingdoms, Calontir held all three bridges. How could we not fight behind that army? And I tell you this story to tell you another. It was a dark and stormy night. It was. We have those at Lily's War, a lot of them actually. Shh. It's beautiful there. Come. No, it is a wonderful war, but it does occasionally thunderstorm. And in this particular thunderstorm, a certain bard of Calontir, who, like Pavel, had a salt and pepper beard, and like Pavel was somewhat overweight, and unlike Pavel, was taunting Thor, bringing up every story he could about how Thor was cross-dresser, and singing his new song, Loki's Song.
Oh no.
When a lightning bolt came streaking down. Now I prefer, in my story, to think it's the last miracle, for it hits Pavel. And does him great harm. In fact, it is a chore for him to even get to Penzic, his favorite of all wars. And we have another war that we like to go to occasionally called Estrella. And he managed to go down there. But after the first day's battle, he was exhausted. So the next day at the fort, he was not with the army. Now at this battle, they formed a scenario, and in the first scenario, it became clear to our general that if you simply follow a simple thing of giving yourself up and trying to take a foe with you, that eventually you will wear down your enemy. The fort cannot be held. No matter how powerful the foe, we will, and we were on the lesser side. And when we attacked, we took it, and not with difficulty. So when we were given the inside of the fort, even though the mighty shield wall was with us, and it was a gap, which is very good for the shield wall to try to hold, Fernando, the general, said, "This is a gate we cannot hold. We will give everything we can. We will do our best. We will fight to the end." But we know from our previous battle that there's no way. But yet we did. In fact, at one point it was heard, "Kill them slower, we are wasting our energy." Or kill them twice as slow as the song became. For yes, songs and stories came back about the Battle of Phaedra's Gate. Why is it Phaedra's Gate? Who is Phaedra? Phaedra was our queen. Why do we call it the Battle of Phaedra's Gate? We fought for her honor, certainly enough. But not only were we impressed with our victory, not only did our soldiers take earth home with them from this, but our enemies, vast in number, Edenveld, their duke who built this fort, allowed us to name that gate in the name of our queen and take his name off. And Pavel was not at that battle. And he heard the stories as the men came back. And he was sad at having missed this most glorious of battles. And then, in the next year, a wise king came to the throne of Calontir, Fernando Rodriguez del Falcon. And he knew of Pavel's sadness, and from his falcon throne, he called to him. Pavel knelt before his king. He said, "I've heard that you're sad that you were not there at the Battle of Phaedra's Gate." Pavel nodded, his sadness obvious. "Not there? You were there at every shield and every spear point. You were there with each of us who commanded. Who of us that were there did not learn at your side?" After these words, a booming herald voice came out, but the words of that strong king echoed too strongly in our ears to really hear. And for some reason, the beautiful scroll was not too clear for us. Because as we looked on, this warrior, this man who had suffered so much and done so much, Pavel wept. And we of Calontir wept with him in our joy.
That's a good story.
Thank you.